Have you ever asked yourself, why am I here? What is this seemingly human life all about? And why am I having this exact experience? If you answered yes, then you're in the right place. Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of Oneness Talks. I'm your host, Kay Riley, and today our very special guest is none other than Debbie Solaris. Debbie is a galactic historian, interdimensional traveler, Ascension Coach, Akashic Channeler, intuitive, and ET Contactee. She helps others identify their unique star origins and soul purpose. Debbie, thank you and welcome to this episode. I am so excited for you to be here. I'm excited for us to kick this off. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm just glad that the timing just worked out so well, because I mean, we're both very busy people, and it's nice that, we had this time to be together and have a nice conversation. So, and plus you're a friend of my great friend, Marianne Savino. I love Marianne. She's my star sister, and any friend of hers is a friend of mine too. So thank you both for having me here.
Yeah. Love that you said that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, I have some notes here.
Okay.
Now, you like to say that you burst onto the metaphysical scene as if almost by accident, right?
Yeah.
Describing yourself as a late bloomer.
Yeah.
And I guess we could say that you were on the fast track, right? To your embodied star potential.
Yeah. I would say that's true. Yeah.
You mentioned on your website that you grew up in a relatively conservative military home with Roman Catholic influences and teachings. And in those formative years, you traveled throughout Europe and Australia, which was incredible, which I'm sure, really taught you a lot about culture and like unconventional living, right? The experience
totally.
here in the US.
Yeah.
You went on yourself in active service in the military, right? And you have a bachelor's degree in science. And you soon met your life partner, Terry, who I believe was already interested, right, in ET and UFO sightings.
Yeah, he was into this way before I was. And, and even when I was, when I was first dating him, I would notice he had UFO magazines all over his house. And I was just like, what the heck is my boo reading? What is this? What is this crazy stuff? Because if you were to meet Terry, he comes across like such a straight guy. Like he is so, I don't know, ordinary is the right word. He's actually extraordinary in my opinion, but he's just such a, just a conservative kind of guy that you would never imagine that, he was into the paranormal and all this other stuff. So even when we were dating, I was just like, what the heck is this?
So he really kind of just blew open.
He activated me.
Yeah,
very much so. Yeah.
I love that. Now, I read that in 2012, which, by the way, was an incredible year for so many people, right?
That was a very much an awakening year. It was the end of the Mayan calendar, and there was a lot going on during that time, So I think it was activating for a lot of people. But that in 2020, I think 2020 was the other big year.
And 2020, absolutely. Yeah. But now in 2012, you say that you had an out-of-body experience that involved an Arcturian mothership, right? So I really wanted to start there.
Okay.
Tell us about that experience and how that really served as like a next catalyst moment for you in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I mentioned before, I was very skeptical with all the whole ufology, ET, realm. I just didn't believe that aliens existed or UFOs existed. I always thought, oh, there must be a reasonable explanation, because I was brought up in the science world, where there had to be tangible proof for everything, So, and then I was also ex-military, so that probably, and came from a military family, so that, played a part in it too. But one, I would say the way this all started was, I think through my husband, I was starting to get more of an awareness that maybe there was something more to what was going on the planet, and that things didn't seem right, like we're in the 21st century. Why is still so much suffering? Why haven't we evolved? Why are we still being packed like sardines in airplanes? It's just all these questions, right? I had a million questions. I didn't understand why humans couldn't do things better. Why, was there so much suffering? Why are people not, stepping up? And so I was really starting to get worried, about the state of the planet. And so one day, as I had a sleepless night, I couldn't, fall asleep. It was just one of those nights where, insomnia was kicking in. And I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to send out a prayer to, the divine, beings of the universe, and ask them for assistance for this planet, because things are not right here. They're just not. And we need some help, So we need some divine interference, So I sent out this prayer to every single divine being I could think of, Jesus, Mother Mary, the angelic realm, the ascended masters, and then I included galactic brothers and sisters. I don't even know where that came from, but I just thought galactic brothers and sisters. And then I just asked them for, help for our planet, just help for the animals and the environment and people and just the social construct, it's just gotten so weird. And that was, almost 15 years ago, or no, not quite 15 years, but maybe 13 years ago. But that was, it was kind of like, it was bad back then. And it seemed like it's gotten worse now. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason for that. But so, things were looking pretty grim in my mind. And so I was just asking these beings for help. And then, the night passed, the next day I went to work as normal, and I forgot all about the prayer. I just forgot about it. It was just like, okay, just got back to my normal life. 2 weeks after I said that prayer, I went to sleep as normal. And when I came to consciousness, I was in a different reality. And you know how you sometimes have dreams, even lucid dreams, and they seem kind of foggy and, kind of like not very clear. This was like crystal clear. This was like hyper reality, where all the details were super crystal clear. The colors were brilliant. There was colors I've never even seen before. And as I was looking around, I noticed I was in the interior of a starcraft. I just, I knew enough about, I guess I watched enough sci-fi movies to know, something like that might look like. But it wasn't metallic, like a lot of the sci-fi movies, they have this kind of metallic realm. The ships look like they were built out of metal, and but this looked like it was comprised of light and plasma or some sort of material I've never seen before. And so I knew that I was not, this was not a dream, and I was in reality, and I noticed the ship had its own sentience, because it was leading me towards a space, and I was just like following along, trying to find, where it wanted to take me to. And then I found myself in this large room. It was like, I stepped into this room, and there was 4 or 5 extraterrestrial beings waiting for me in this room. And I knew immediately that they were extraterrestrial. There was no, there was no, I would say, disguising the fact that they were not human, from Earth. And the thing with, when you encounter these beings, is their vibrations are so high. Like a lot of times they're having to pull their vibration down to even interact with us. And they were, I could tell they were pulling their vibration down, but even then it was hard for me to even see them. Like just looking directly at them, all I saw was auras, I just saw all these colors, auras, and I had to like take glances through the periphery of my eye to see what they looked like, so as I was looking at these beings, I was like, they look alien, but they're not, gray aliens. They're not the tall Nordics that, I would read about in my husband's magazines, like they don't look like those beings. But you could tell that they were definitely not human. They had the larger heads, very slim bodies. I couldn't tell, but they seemed like they were pulling their vibrations so much that they were trying to make themselves my size.
Interesting.
Yeah, so even though I knew that probably in actuality they were much taller, but they were trying to, I think, not seem so intimidating, and I was thinking, like, how do I communicate with them? Like, do they speak English? And even as I was formulating questions in my head, they were answering me in telepathy. So I was getting answers from them. And so I communicated with them, or they communicated with me telepathically, which was amazing because I, never thought I could do that, or never thought that could be done. So I was like, wow, that's amazing. There's no language barrier when you speak in telepathy, which I think that's something humans are going to be working towards, here on Earth, where there's no longer going to be language barriers. We're all going to be on the same level,
I love that.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait for that to happen.
Oh my God.
There'll be no room for deception or lies, or so nobody's going to pull the wool over your eyes anymore, because you're going to know exactly what their intentions are when you
talk about full disclosure, right?
Yeah,
it's just all out.
Yeah, you're going to know exactly. So I had that experience, and that was blowing my mind in itself. And so I was asking these beings, like, who are you, and where are you from, and where are we at? What are we doing? Why am I here? I'm nobody special. I was like, why didn't you bring the president up here? So I had all these questions, and they were answering my questions, and they said they were Arcturians from the star system of Arcturus, and I had never heard of the Arcturians before. And they had like this holographic sphere where they were kind of illustrating some of their ideas or what they were talking about. So they showed me a star map, and they showed me the constellation that their star system was located in, and I was just amazed. I was just like, wow, this is crazy. And I said, why me? Like, why?
I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah, why me? I'm not even a believer. I'm not even anybody that, has any kind of influence on this planet. And they told me it was because they heard my prayer 2 weeks ago. They heard my prayer, and they figured I was ready. And actually, I think thinking back on it now, I think I was preparing for this moment, unwittingly or unwillingly, for a number of years, because I did do a lot of volunteer work prior to my experience, so I was, so I felt like I was being almost prepared for this on some higher level, but so I was part of an animal assisted therapy team for 6 years, and I had a therapy cat. She was one of only 4 therapy cats in Colorado, and we did a lot of work together. It was we did a lot of work with the military, with the American Red Cross, with the local library district, even with Alzheimer homes, Alzheimer wards. We did a lot of. I mean, it was like a lot of volunteer work. This was in addition to my normal job. So this wasn't my job. It was like all on my off time, so I wasn't getting paid, not that I would ever ask for payment for something like that, but it was just, something that I was guided to do, and I felt like, my therapy cat was my teacher, she was my teacher. But going back to the ship experience, I kind of, they told me that I was part of their soul group, that I was one of them, that I had chosen to be on planet Earth, but I had forgotten my mission. And, they felt like because of the prayer, because of where, all the work I've done previously, I was now ready, to step into my mission. And they didn't really tell me what my mission was at that time. I think maybe they didn't want to bombard me with too much.
Right. Yeah.
So they were, I think busy just answering my questions about why are things so messed up on planet Earth, but I did get messages from them later on, what my mission was supposed to be. This was like, I think a year or two later after that experience, but
wow.
Yeah. But just to kind of speed up the story, they told me that pretty much planet Earth is going through this great transition period that, I think a lot of us know that already, but that was news to me back then. And that, things were going to get better, but it was still based on the free will choices of the human collective here on Earth. And that basically we're living in this false matrix construct, like the 3D is really not real. They kept saying the word illusion, which I didn't quite understand what they meant at the time. And they showed me around the ship. So I saw technology I've never seen before. It was just amazing. And the ship was huge. It was like city sized. It looked like you were in some sort of like an enclosed city almost. I mean, everything was light and beautiful. It was very organic. At the same time, there was hundreds of extraterrestrial beings on this ship, not just the Arcturians. There was beings of different races, different star systems. I interacted with, particularly with a Pleiadian being, and it was amazing. I felt like when I came back to my current reality after that experience, I knew something extraordinary had happened. I knew that my life was never going to be the same after what happened. And of course, the first person I told was Terry, my husband.
Of course.
He was the first. I remember calling him up and I said, Terry, you're never going to believe what just happened, And he thought I was having some sort of crazy, I don't know, episode, or maybe I lost it. I don't know. But now he believes that, something definitely had happened. But I didn't tell anybody for 2 years. Like, I didn't even tell my own family.
Right.
Yeah, I thought for sure people would think I have lost it, that I was ready for the loony bin, So I kept it pretty much to myself. But around this time, my extrasensory perception had increased 100-fold.
Yeah.
And, so I knew something shifted and changed, and I was starting to get exposed to a lot of different downloads and experiences that I've never had before, where I was, traveling in and out of dimensions. I was astro traveling to different planets and locations. And then I was, I don't know, I was getting downloads, like massive downloads of galactic information, and, all about these different star systems, their history, their civilizations, what were they about? And I never taken astronomy. I don't know any of these star systems. And then all of a sudden I knew all of them, it's just like, what the heck? So I started, taking a lot of classes, and I did a lot of research on my own. Like, I was just trying to see, is this valid? Am I just making this stuff up? And then I got introduced to, the work of Alex Collier and Lissa Royale Holt and, Dolores Cannon and Edgar Casey. And they were all talking about this stuff. And I was just like, wow, okay, maybe I'm not making it up,
Right.
So yeah, it was like an experience. And then when you have an experience like that, it's a lot like going through an NDE, like a near-death experience, where where you come back, you're in this higher realm, you come back to the 3D, and you're depressed because you've been exposed to those higher dimensions, and now you're having to reintegrate into this lower density reality. And I went through a period depression for a number of months after that experience because I didn't understand, like, why would I be exposed to that? And now I have to be back, working my 3D job and, commuting to work, an hour each way, Colorado snow, so I was super depressed for a while. But I do think, that period was necessary for me to go through that so that I can build my own information, that I was able to build, take the spirituality courses, go to, do the research, integrate all this information, integrate even the experience, because I had 2 experiences on that ship, not just one. But it was crazy.
So did they happen simultaneously, Debbie, or like the 2 experiences?
It was the second one happened 6 months after the first one. So so the first one happened, I think it was like the end of May or early June, 2012. And then the second one happened in December. It was like a couple of days before Christmas. And that was a little bit of a shorter experience. It didn't feel like I was on the ship for months like the first one. I was interacting with the Pleiadian beings that I met on the ship, before. When I had my first experience, there was a man and a woman that I interacted with, and they were sharing more personal information, like stuff that was relevant. They told me who my cat really was, the therapy cat. Like she was one of them. She was a Pleiadian being. She was like part of the Pleiadian High Council or the Council of Elders, or I don't know. She was like high up in the Pleiadian echelon, and she was sent to be my teacher. So. And they told me about my father's suicide. So before I had my experience in 2007, my father committed suicide, and that was devastating for my family. So they told me that despite what the Catholics say, that just because somebody commits suicide doesn't mean they go to hell. They don't go to hell. They actually, it's kind of like, it's kind of like they break their contract. So, so they have to, I don't know if the reparations is the right word, but they have to do some sort of spiritual backtracking to make up for breaking the contract. And usually they end up having to repeat that lifetime, so that was, so they were telling me, they were kind of sharing the kind of the spiritual implications of suicide. But basically, the main message from that was that your father's soul is okay. He's not, being tortured or suffering in hell or, anything like that, which I never believed in hell anyway. I was just like, never thought that. I think sometimes being here on Earth could be like hell. But,
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it was kind of like it was a little bit more personal of a meeting. And I was very grateful because in the short period of time I was back on board the ship, the Pleiadians shared a lot with me. And I am very, very grateful to them, for clearing up a lot of this mystery around certain events that have happened, so So I consider, the Pleiadians like my second family, like I spent so much time in the Pleiades. Like, I feel like I'm like an honorary Pleiadian sometimes, but I love the Pleiades. It's
Yeah.
just an amazing civilization, but I love all of them, but, for different reasons, but I kind of like got to the point where I started taking classes locally. So I took some Reiki courses here in Castle Rock, Colorado. And the lady that offered those courses, I was just talking to her one day about these downloads. And I said, where are they coming from? It's like, they're like so detailed. And I'm just getting all this information. And she says, oh, you're downloading the Akashic records. And I said, what in the heck is the Akashic? This was like in 2014, so.
So when you say download, because I know everybody kind of experiences a little bit differently.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How does that come through for you? Like, how does that appear? Like, is it that you get the vision, you get the inner knowing, you get the intelligence? Like, tell us like what that's like for you a little bit at that time.
Yeah, happy to share that. It's like I'm downloading a movie in my head. Like it's like very visual for me. I'm more of a clairvoyant, I guess, person, where a lot of things for me are very visual. But it's like I'm seeing it through the third eye. So it's not like, I'm actually in actuality seeing it through my eyes. Yeah.
Totally.
And it's like I'm seeing like the whole story. And a lot of times it's a multi-sensory experience where you feel, the feelings, you hear the sounds, you get, this clairsentience, so you get this knowing, in addition to what you're seeing. And a lot of times it can be very exhausting, when you have one of those experiences, because it just feels like, wow, I just felt something and I went through this experience. And even though it was just through my third eye, I was just kind of more viewing it. Sometimes it feels like you're even a part of it, so, and that's how a lot of times I do my Akashic readings, so a lot of times I'll feel like everything that person was feeling during that particular lifetime or that experience or that dimension. And it gets really pretty intense at times, not just for my client, but also for me,
Totally.
So,
oh yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for asking that, because I think people do downloads. I agree with you, in different ways. Some people do light language, or they might
could be art.
So for me it's very visual, so I see like all this stuff, and you're thinking to yourself, like, there's no way I could make this up. I don't even have the level of imagination to make up, what it is I'm looking at, so, and then you're still second guessing yourself,
Oh, totally.
Yeah, because you're not even really sure, what you're looking at is even real. And I hear that a lot from my Akashic students. Like, a lot of times they'll start delving into the records, and they're second guessing like everything they're looking at. I say, don't just flow with it. Just flow with it. Don't even second guess it. Just flow with it, because if you're seeing it, it's probably real. More than likely, there's a reason why you're downloading it. And so, yeah, it's a great question. And
I just think thought it was really important for people to get,
absolutely,
because I'm sure there are a lot of people who could potentially be having experiences like this, right? Because we're all awakening to a different level.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like they could be experiencing something and then not fully understanding like what it is. Should I be afraid? Like, what's happening to me? So it's really good to share, the different ways in which you could be receiving downloads. Like, so many times I've often asked myself too, like, you could look at a musician for all intents and purposes, And they often talk about how they were just like, it's so funny when you look at the languaging of words, they were inspired to do a song. But really, when you ask yourself that deeper question, it's like they were channeling from source on some level to bring through that information.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. No, I think music too, not to digress, but I think music too is going through a massive transformation. I think, for a long time, the music industry has been pushing really low vibrational music. And I think people are starting to get disillusioned with it and moving. I noticed that a lot of the younger people, especially, they're listening to more of the retro music. They want it, they're listening to the music of the 70s and the 60s and maybe even the 50s. I don't know. And definitely the 80s. But a lot of them are moving back to listening to because there were a little bit more high vibrational. There was more meaning to the music, back
I love that you said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you said that.
Yeah, no, I'm an 80s baby. I love the 80s music.
The 70s, I like forget
Yeah,
it.
70s.
Yeah.
Like I love all that music. And nowadays I don't even know the current artists that are popular because I don't relate to any of that music. And that's maybe I'm just an old fart. I don't know.
No. I think that's part of the programming, really, that we're,
I think so
we're
too.
old farts. But, a couple of years ago, I have to be honest and say, like, there was definitely this shift within me when it came to music. And I asked myself that question too, like, oh God, am I in that stage of like, or I can't be relevant? But you bring up a really, really good, powerful point. And I feel like, to your point, that music is going through, like, there's a lot of distortion in music.
Oh, there is. It's pretty bad.
Yes, like it, and it's so impactful. It's so impactful because we listen to music all the time. And if
it's
you're
all
aware, you don't really know what you're taking up within your own energy body. Like it's
absolutely
a really powerful subject, honestly, Debbie,
Yeah, and I noticed that a lot of the music nowadays is very sexualized. I mean, like to the gross level, like it's super gross. And
it's not necessary.
Yeah, and it's like they're trying to take the sacred act of sexuality and just degrade it down to the base level. And that's part of the reason why I don't listen to a lot of modern music, because it's bad. So I think music is, I know there's a lot of star seeds out there that work with music and they're very gifted. And I think we're going to see this reemergence of new music that is going to be much more higher vibrational. Can't wait for that to happen.
Can't wait for that. Yes.
I want to start buying music again, the oldies over and over again, but I love the oldies, but it'll be nice to, integrate more higher vibrational tones even with music. So even though I'm not a musician myself, I don't work with sound, frequency, I do have a great love and interest in it because it influences us so much. I mean, such a huge influence. I love how a lot of the conferences now are getting these sound healers and these light language posts that are bringing in that higher frequency. And my husband likes to play high frequency tones throughout the house, throughout the day. So it just kind of sets people in just a good place, to receive information.
Absolutely. Now, this now leads me to ask you the question, right? Because you work with so many within the history, if you will, of all these galactic races, right? We look at the Vegans, the Lyrans, right? The Syrian, the Arcturians, the beings from Orion, Antares, and the Pleiades, right?
Yeah, a lot.
Would you, since we're on the topic of music for a minute, and then we can move on, but
totally.
Do you feel like there's any particular star race that maybe leans in a little bit more into sounds the way we use it here on Earth. Like, because you know that I can imagine, and I, you know, sense that they're all connected to the tones, right? The galactic tones and the frequencies and the celestial and all of that. But
Right.
the way we're kind of like the way disclosure is going on the planet right now, it's like we're starting to realize the real magnitude and power of sound and vibration and what it could do in terms of levitating, in terms of doing all these different things. I'm curious if you've ever been shown, or if you can share your perspective on how they might utilize those tones in a way that we obviously don't here on this planet. You know, like, does like maybe each star system have its own unique tonal frequency, right? Because we all talk about the God code too, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, totally.
the
Yeah.
source code, right? Like it's that, we want to say it's a singular code, but there's so much in there, but it encompasses everything.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, no, that's a great question. I noticed one of the things I love about Marianne Savino is she's one of the few light language experts that she does the light language in different different dialects, like different extraterrestrial dialects. Which I love that about her, because I remember when she was on my radio show way back in 2017, you know, when I first met her, and she was doing all this toning, and I was like, oh yeah, that's an Arcturian dialect, or oh yeah, that's a Pleiadian dialect.
Wow. So you could identify.
I was able to identify it, and I was telling her that, and she was like, oh, I don't even know what I'm, you know, what I'm channeling, you know, some of the time, but but there are certain tonalities that I would say are attributed to certain star systems, and I do think this variety is what we're missing right now here on Earth. I noticed even I just recently did like a healing session. I got to meet the gal that created the harmonic egg, which is kind of a precursor to a med bed. You know, it's a little. She created this pod, and she's based in Colorado. You know, so I got to meet her, and you know, and so we did a little bit of an exchange. Like I did a reading for her, and she did this healing for me, and the thing that came across even in her pod was that there was no variety in the tonality. Like it was all kind of consistent. And one of the things I channeled for her is I think there needs to be variety in the tonality of your tones. And she was a little resistant to it, which I mean, I think she, you know, is obviously very proud of her creation, and, you know, but I think she was also open to making some upgrades and adjustments. And I said, that is the main thing. I would say there needs to be more variety in the tones that you play in your harmonic egg. And also, you know, shifting of colors also, because the colors were very consistent too. And I was just like, you know, different people need different, you know, maybe color ranges or different tonalities, and we're all not the same. And, you know, maybe, you know, one tone will help heal a person better than another tone, you know. But she was at least open-minded to take my, I guess, feedback. And it was just, I was channeling this from, you know, I guess, you know, the records or her guides or my guides or something. But I do think it's the variety, and also I do think the vibrations need to be higher. Like I think sometimes, or there needs to be more of a, I guess, a movement towards the higher ranges that is more gradual, rather than just blasting people with this high vibrational tone.
Yeah, I
And
understand.
they're just like, you know, it's very jarring for the person. So, so I think that's why some people don't really feel good when they hear, you know, like the 500 hertz, you know, tones, you know, because it's maybe they haven't been able to get integrated to it, you know. So I do think music is going to integrate more of those star codes, more of those different extraterrestrial tones. And I think as more and more, starseeds awaken to their, starseed gifts, particularly those that are more musically inclined, they're going to start integrating a lot of these new tones that is going to be at least helpful to the planet, not
Absolutely.
keeping our vibrations down so much. I mean, honestly, when I hear like like one of Taylor Swift's songs or, one of the popular, artist songs, I feel depressed afterwards. So like, I don't even want to hear it. It's like, I can't even hear the whole song. It's just like, God, it's like they integrate so much low vibration, it's like, so even if it may sound like it's a peppy or, upbeat song, the tonality behind it is very low vibrational. So
Right. Yeah.
and I think that's on purpose, honestly. I do.
I agree with you there. Yeah, I do believe it's intentional.
Yeah.
Especially with everything that's really trying to come in galactically that's flooding the planet right now. And,
Yeah.
It's like there's a whole thing going on.
I want to get back to your question about which galactic races had the most influence on music. I would say Vega. So as part of the Lyra system, Vega they've been very musical.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see some influences from Andromeda. We don't have a lot of Andromeda integration yet, but I'm with these newer, younger starseed musicians. I think a lot of them are from Andromeda, so we're going to start seeing more Andromedan influences. But I would say Vega, Pleiades. I would say Apollonia. They've all
Apollonia.
yeah, Apollonia. A lot of people don't know about Apollonia.
Yeah.
Apollonia is a creative planet. It was actually in the Taurus constellation. It was a series of planets. I think not connected with the Pleiades, though. It was kind of like part of the overall Taurus constellation, but not in the Pleiades cluster. But what I notice with a lot of my creative star seeds is a lot of them have a connection with Apollonia. And Apollonia has had a big influence on the creative arts here on this planet, particularly with a lot of the mainstream art, like, painting and poetry and music, and even with fashion. Like, I do believe, our desire to want to dress up, in certain colors or certain ways came from Apollonia. The Pleiadians were almost utilitarian in their clothing, depending on what system they were in. Like, particularly Pleiadians were very utilitarian because a lot of them were connected to Starfleet Command, and they were dressing more or less in kind of some form of uniform. But depending on what system, like the Maya Pleiadians were more, I think, expressive with their clothing, and so were the Meropians. But you see like differences, and I think I just did a newsletter. I think I talked about extraterrestrial fashion in my newsletter.
How amazing is that?
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. Like, even here on Earth, like you'll start to like look at certain civilizations on Earth, and then if you have this knowledge of the star races, you're like, wow, it's like Southeast Asia. A lot of their clothing looks very Andromedan. It looks like,
oh wow,
yeah, and so there was this big Andromedan influence in Southeast Asia, or you look at Northern Europe, and it's like, wow, there's a lot of Pleiadian influence in Northern Europe, particularly Scandinavia, and maybe even some of the countries that are kind of more north. So so there's so you start seeing correlations and influences of these different star races. With even the way people culture, certain cultures throughout the planet. And I know, like, the Middle East, a lot of Syrian influence there, particularly Egypt. Egypt had a lot of Syrian connections, a lot of Orion connections. So And I think this information is going to become more and more mainstream, as time goes on. I think I can die happy if I know that there's going to be galactic history courses offered at universities and high schools.
Oh, yeah,
That's my
I
goal,
love that.
is to start seeing that actually offered in mainstream schools. So
Oh,
I
I
don't know,
love
maybe
that.
that will never happen in this lifetime, but I don't know. I'm
Oh,
setting the
please do.
intention that it will. So
I absolutely love that. I love everything about that. I
yeah,
just love
so
it. Yeah.
because I think this is part of the history that's been hidden from us,
I
and it's
agree.
been hidden on purpose. Like the powers to be on this planet, they do not want us vibing in our highest vibration. They want us staying low and depressed and sick and overweight, or sick mainly, and they do not want us connected to our star families, to our
Mhm.
higher divinity.
Yeah.
And so that's my mission, is to make sure that we're connected to all that, because that's so important, I think, for us to move forward.
Yeah.
Otherwise we're going to have extraterrestrial contact and people are going to be freaking out.
They're going to freak out. I know. Yeah. And I just absolutely love that that more and more people are coming out and they're talking so openly about their experiences and their natural innate gifts, and that there isn't anything to be fearful of. There's nothing to be fearful of. And I'm so grateful to you for following your soul's path and what you wanted to do here, because as we know, it just creates these ripples,
Mm-hmm.
in the fabric of this reality here, and it allows and invites people to make a choice for themselves where they can say, oh wow, I really feel pulled into this. Let me look over here and see, what's meant to come up for me. And I feel, Debbie, like you have such a beautiful balance of groundedness,
Mm-hmm.
and yet your supreme heritage of your own star knowing is so prominent. And
Oh,
I
thank
think
you.
it's so
Thank
needed because it it offers so much credibility, if you will. Again, right?
Yeah.
Human words that we use.
Yeah.
There's That's needed, and it's needed from the female perspective as
Oh,
well.
I agree. I think there needs to be more female voices in our industry, that even with Gaia TV, and I love Gaia. I mean,
Yeah.
they've given me my start. I was already, I think, pretty successful even before I went on Gaia, but I love Gaia. I love what they're trying to do, but I feel like they all the time they have these white guys. There's like too many white guys. It's like, you guys need to get some women. You need to get some black people. You need to get
Yes.
some Asian.
United Nations, here we go.
I know you need a little more diversity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think they're trying. I don't know. I think they still have a ways to go. And I think now that they have their new CEO, which she's been working there a while, Kirsten Meldovich, amazing person. I love her. Talk about down to earth,
Aw.
but I think she's trying to make changes, but it's been kind of slow. But I agree with you. I think there needs to be more female voices. We need to have, especially older female voices. I think,
Oh, explain. That's
yeah.
elaborate. That yeah.
So I feel like the grandmother energy needs to come in.
Mhm.
Where the wise woman, the crone energy. I feel like a lot of times in our, even in our metaphysical community, like you see a lot of these young girls that, granted, I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade. I think we all have our place, but you see a lot of these young girls in their goddess outfits. I think kind of sexualizing themselves a little bit, maybe.
Okay.
And I feel like there needs to be more of a voice for middle-aged and older women, to share their wisdom and to be celebrated. I really believe, at least in our reality, that older women, we kind of get pushed to the side. We're not, valued as much in our current, Western society, and it's kind of permeated even in the spiritual community, where some of us that are older, like I'm an oldster, I'm old. But some of us that are older, we don't get the opportunities or the attention or the recognition that maybe others in our community get, because there needs to be this reemergence of the grandmother energy, where grandmothers are revered again, like they were in Native American culture, so I do think there is I had a Native American teacher for a lot of years. She's passed on now, but I still honor her with the story. But she told us, her students, the story of Sedna. And Sedna is the name of an asteroid that has a very elliptical, it's in our solar system, but she has a very elliptical orbit, so sometimes she's like way out there. But Sedna is the name of an Inuit goddess of the sea. And there's a whole story behind that.
Oh, wow.
So those of you that are interested might want to check out Sedna, the asteroid, and what she's named after. But but she was like a grandmother energy. And what my Native American teacher told me was that Sedna, her orbit is coming back to Earth. So, for a long time she was way out in the stratosphere, but now she's coming back, and she's bringing in that grandmother frequency. And that's what I think we're going to be integrating in the next few years, so.
I love that too. It's so validating of the wisdom that we hold, right? And moving from, let's just say, I think I read this somewhere, so it's fine, but we're moving from, let's just say, the womb energy of, right, birthing children and the maiden and all of that. And then we rise up into this state as we get older as women, where we embody all this wisdom. And
exactly.
as you know, the way this matrix system is built is they want to suppress that. So it doesn't surprise me that we'd find ourselves at our greatest state of being an embodied woman.
Exactly.
We would be taking it, we would be looked at like, oh, they're not as valuable because they much rather focus on the womb energy instead of seeing all of it, and that it all kind of culminates up in our third eye, if you will, with our wisdom and our connection to source and all of that.
No, I totally 100% agree with that. I feel like when women are younger, and like I said, not trying to take away from all the, the phases of womanhood at all, but I feel like a lot of times when we're younger, we're focused on our children, our families, our husbands. And so the energy gets a little bit distracted maybe. But then, when we step into menopause or, even perimenopause, we're stepping into this other phase where we're integrating, everything that we learned, in the previous phases, and we're integrating it. And now we're in the position where we could give advice to younger people or to people in general, and just share our wisdom. But that has been purposefully shut down in Western civilization for centuries. I mean, for centuries, if not thousands of years. Okay. And I love that the Native American culture is one of the few cultures, maybe there might be some Asian cultures too, that still honor the older female, the grandmother energy. And so I do think we're going to be returning to that, in the next few years, as we, ascend. And that, older women are going to find their voice, and they're going to, step into their power again. It's not going to be suppressed like it was. And I'm not just saying that because I am an older woman, but also because I feel like it's been a missing component. And the story of the, asteroid Sedna coming back to Earth, I think, it's a beautiful correlation between, what happens in the outer realm. Also, it happens on a microcosm in the, into where we're at here, So we are going to see this integration. And I think a lot of us are looking forward to that,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to so many different things. So many things. This has just been amazing, Debbie. And
Thank you for having me.
Literally, I could keep you here for hours.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But before we go,
mm-hmm.
I did want to just mention some of the services, because I know some people who will be tuning in and watching this podcast will want to connect with you. So I know you offer online trainings and offerings. You have one, I believe, that's on star origins.
Mm-hmm.
I love the ones that you have out there for the elementals,
mm-hmm.
rejuvenation, right? Anti-aging, for those of you who are interested in that. Soul contracts, understanding relationships. Like, there's so much content on Debbie's website, and I'll be sure to include all the details in the description of this video. I know you have some upcoming events.
Yeah.
We were talking about January 11th, Portal to Ascension. You're doing the Pleiadian and Arcturian conference.
Yeah.
March 7th, you're doing Lemuria's Creation and Legacy, which knocked me out of the water. I was like, oh my God. And then March 20th through the 30th, you're doing the Mystery School at sea aboard the Celebrity Infinity cruise line, right?
Yeah, so that is insane.
It's a culmination for next year. It's just there's so much.
Yeah.
So I just want to celebrate you and once again say thank you for all that you are and all that you offer humanity, for being brave enough to take the steps in your own life to just be this incredible channel that you are, for all of us. So,
thank you for having me. And thanks for sharing some of my offerings.
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding? Like I said, I truly want to sign up for a couple myself. And then in short, I just want to say also on Debbie Solaris's website, you can find, she offers otter spirit jewelry. She has some high vibrational apparel and energy infused products. You can all check that out online too. And plus just an unlimited resource of knowledge on there.
Yeah, there's a whole galactic history section. I mean, that is very in-depth. So
truly,
and it's all free. You don't have to pay a membership or anything. It's just out there for anybody that wants to delve deep into that. So, do take advantage of that. And in addition to the trainings and the events, as far as readings, I am not taking new clients right now. It's a lot. I have over 3,000 people on my wait list. I cannot take on any more clients at this time. So, but we do have a beautiful Akashic Readers directory of a lot of my prior students that have gone through the training. They are trained in galactic Akashic reading, and there are many gifted readers there. So if you want an Akashic reading with somebody that's been trained by me, do check out the directory, and you'll be able to find plenty to choose from there.
Outstanding, Debbie. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone who tuned in today. Again, we'll share all the details and descriptions on how you can connect with Debbie in the description below. And until next time, stay well and stay healthy, friends.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.